There are so many countries in the world, like the US, that allow you to have dual citizenship, which means you get to keep your US citizenship or the country where you were born, but you also have citizenship in another country, which means you can work, vote, live, study, own property, and so many other things just like you would back home. So why get a second passport? There are so many benefits of being a dual citizen, like security, global mobility, business, tax optimization, quality of life, lower cost of living in some places, more job opportunities in some places, or even just wanting to have a plan B option in case things go awry in your home country. So let me tell you the reasons why I wanted a second passport. There are 4 main ones. So first off, because of my roots and my heritage. I grew up hearing stories from my dad, grandparents, and great-grandparents about living in England and traveling all over Europe. Like, it was just so common to take the ferry to France for the weekend or spend your summers with family in Greece, and I was just enthralled. I always daydreamed about growing up and moving to London, living this big city life over in the UK because I just felt so connected to it somehow. And of course, that's because of my heritage and how many generations of my dad's side have been born and grown up here in England. So a part of me really did belong there, and I always felt that. The second reason is a better quality of life. I love the walking culture in Europe, how healthy the food is, hopping on the train or metro to go somewhere rather than having to drive and park and all that kind of stuff. I just feel a lot healthier and I enjoy myself a lot more in this lifestyle. Also, travel is my life. It's what makes me happy, and living in the UK gives me more travel opportunities than living in the US because it's so close to travel to other countries, whereas obviously the US is so huge and so expensive just to travel within our own country. And I grew up in Los Angeles, one of the most expensive cities in the world, so it might seem crazy to say that living in London is more affordable because London is very, very expensive. I'm not denying that, but it actually is cheaper than living in LA. And plus, I don't have to stay in London. I can move anywhere in England, Scotland, Wales, or Northern Ireland with my dual citizenship as being a UK citizen, which all of those places would be significantly more affordable than living in LA. The third reason is more travel freedom. I'm fortunate enough to have grown up with a US passport, which has an amazing passport ranking. It's ranked 6th on the Henley Global Passport Index and allows me to travel visa-free to 189 countries, but believe it or not, the UK actually ranks even higher at number 3, allowing me to travel visa-free to 193 countries. And to piggyback off of this, even the visa prices differ based on your passport. So for example, when my dad was coming to visit me when I was living in China, he was applying for a tourist visa and he decided to use his UK passport because the visa fee for a UK passport was only $23 US and the US passport fee was $140. That's a huge price difference. So even if both your passports require a visa for the country that you do want to visit, at least it might save you a little bit of money to use one passport over the other. And the fourth reason is to pass it along to my kids. I want them to have all the options in the world. If they want to live in the US, great. If they want to live in the UK, awesome. They can do either if they have that dual citizenship. They just also have a lot more opportunities as they get older by having 2 passports and citizenships, especially as they start applying to universities, and they can get way more affordable education by going to uni in the UK, or even if they decide they want to move there after their degree in the US. The beauty of it is that nothing is decided for them. They have the freedom to do what they want and have as many opportunities as they can. So let me know in the comments why you would want a second passport and where you're hoping to get your dual citizenship. Now let's take a look at some of the most common visa and citizenship options that a lot of countries offer. First up, we have the golden visa or the investment visa. If you're fortunate enough to have a lot of money laying around, a lot of countries will offer long stay visas or residence permits that can turn into citizenship, which I'll talk more about in a little bit, if you are willing to invest in their economy, invest in real estate or a local business. Each country's requirements and minimum investment amount will vary, a little bit, of course, but usually it is very expensive, like 6 or 7 figures. So it's not feasible for most people, but it doesn't hurt to do some investigating because that's not always the case for every country. Next is the family root citizenship through marriage or having kids in that country. But again, that's very specific. Most people aren't in a position where they are going to be marrying someone from the country where they want to get citizenship in or having a kid there. There's also usually some sort of like special merit visa or citizenship given to people making a special contribution to the country in a specific field, like maybe science. But again, that's a very small percentage of people. So these next 2 that I'm going to talk about are probably the most common ways to get dual citizenship. The first is naturalization. So if you move to a country on some sort of visa, like a student visa or a working visa, and have been there for a few years, you can usually apply for permanent residency. And then once you have that permanent residency, a lot of countries offer that as a path to gaining citizenship after about 5 to 10 years of living in that country. Again, each country has a different requirement for the amount of years it takes to get that permanent residency, and then from there, how long it takes for that to turn into citizenship, if at all. So of course, a second passport is the goal. You want that dual citizenship, but a permanent residence card anywhere is a great second option. It's similar to a green card in the US, so you're allowed to be there legally, you're allowed to work, you don't have any restrictions. You can also leave to go travel and come back, there's no problem. And the other common way is citizenship by descent. This is probably the most common for Americans because we are a country of immigrants. So I guess that most people have a parent, grandparent, or great-grandparent that immigrated to the US from somewhere else in the world, and that's how you're going to get your dual citizenship. It requires a bit of work to dig up the paperwork to support your application, but it's probably the easiest option in the grand scheme of things just because the naturalization takes a long time. This might be a little bit quicker and a little bit easier. So in this video, I'm going to share with you how I gained my dual citizenship by descent with the UK, and hopefully it'll help you with your journey as well. And I'll even go over a few other popular countries in Europe, their citizenship by descent regulations, since Nick has been looking into getting dual citizenship with Italy, and we've been doing a lot of research about this in general. So first things first, how do you qualify? Of course, this depends on the country, when your relatives were born, how many generations ago you're connected to them, and when they gained or lost their citizenship. So in most cases, this is going to require a lot of time and effort on your part into looking into your family tree, finding birth certificates and old passports to find all the supporting documents you're gonna need to provide for your application. Luckily for me, my dad was born in England, so I didn't have to find a connection far back in my family tree or talk to a ton of relatives to get what I needed. So for the UK specifically, you actually can only apply for citizenship if your parent was a UK citizen, not a grandparent or great-grandparent, which is the case in a lot of European countries or just countries in general. So it is a bit more strict. They only allow it to be passed down one generation if you weren't born in the UK. So you'd go to this page and then you'd click your birth year to see if you're eligible, since the requirements have changed over time. So I click here since this is my birthday, and now you need to see if you are already a British citizen or you need to apply for citizenship. So both of these need to apply in order for you to already be considered a British citizen. You were born between the 1st of January 1983 and the 30th of June 2006. And your mother or father was a British citizen when you were born. They must have been married if your father had British citizenship, but your mother did not. So if your father was a UK citizen at the time of your birth, but not married to your mom, you would not automatically be a citizen, but you could apply for citizenship as long as he was either born or adopted in the UK, given citizenship after applying for it on his own, meaning he wasn't naturally born a UK citizen but got citizenship eventually, or if he worked as a crown servant when you were born. So I think that's kind of wild that if your parents were married, you're automatically a citizen, but if they weren't, you have to apply for citizenship. By filling out the form online and then providing the documents, and then pay an additional fee to attend a citizenship ceremony. Luckily for me, I was considered a British citizen already at birth because my parents were married, which I had no idea about. My dad is a UK citizen. He was married to my mom, who's a US citizen, before my birth. So all I had to do was apply for a UK passport directly. And in order to do that, I had to fill out the forms online, pay the fee, and then mail these documents: my birth certificate, my US passport, my dad's UK birth certificate, my dad's UK passport, and my parents' marriage certificate. It took about 3 months for them to process everything and mail me all my documents back, along with my US passport that I sent them and the new UK passport that I just got. So obviously it's nice to have a second passport, but after Brexit, it's not as great to have a UK passport because I can only live and work in the UK, whereas before I could have lived and worked anywhere in the EU, like anywhere in Europe, which would have been so awesome and would have saved me a lot more money living in some more affordable big cities in Spain or Italy. So let's take a look at EU countries that grant citizenship by descent to grandchildren and great-grandchildren, which again is easier than the UK, which only grants citizenship by descent to children, not grandchildren or great-grandchildren. So hopefully you can take advantage of this and you can go, no matter which citizenship you get, you'd be eligible to live and work anywhere in the EU. So if we look at the list here, you can see there's actually a ton of different options that offer this. Bulgaria, Hungary, Greece, Ireland, Spain, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Croatia, and the Czech Republic. So you'd have to start asking your parents or looking into your family tree to see if any of your grandparents or great-grandparents come from one of these countries. Once you confirm that you do have a paternity connection to one of these countries through a parent, grandparent, or great-grandparent, the next step is going on that specific country's government site, finding the citizenship by descent guidelines and following them. But typically what you'd need is to fill out an application, probably online, send or upload documents, and pay the fee, exactly like what I did when I was applying for my passport or looking into my citizenship for the UK. So the most difficult part is going to be finding the required supporting documents, especially the further you go back in generations. So for example, we've been looking into applying for Italian citizenship by descent for Nick, and the challenging part is trying to find his great-grandmother's documents. So if you see on the screen here, this is a checklist of documents needed for the Italian citizenship by descent for US citizens. So you'd have to first determine what your ancestor was: a naturalized US citizen, still alive and not a US citizen, or never a naturalized citizen. And read the checklist below to the one that applies for you and your family. And if you scroll down, you can see a summary of the documents needed, which makes it a bit easier to understand because it does get quite confusing. So what I would highly recommend doing, and what we're planning on doing just to make sure everything is right, you don't want to mess it up. So you want to schedule a free consultation call with an Italian immigration lawyer. Usually it's like 10-15 minutes. You can ask them questions and start to understand the process a little bit better. And if you feel comfortable after the call, you can apply on your own. If not, you can hire them to help you with the process, which of course will be so much easier and less stressful because they know exactly what they're doing, but it will cost you. And make sure you do read reviews on that lawyer, because I have been reading about some scams because they are in Italy. It's really hard to confirm if they are a real lawyer or not, and people have just been paying Italian lawyers to do this for them, or Italian lawyers, and it's just been a scam. They're just sending them money and they're not doing anything for them. So make sure to do research on the lawyer or the company that is trying to help you, and make sure that they are reliable and have a good reputation. So I'm not here to give you legal advice on how to get your visa. I'm more so here to tell you that I have personally done it and why I think the benefits are so great that you should look into getting a second passport with dual citizenship too. Take a look at this list of the easiest countries for Americans to move overseas and where you'd be interested in moving to.